So in the last 2 months, I've done a ton of research on AI and the human subconscious and basically how both are programmed. Now, I'm not going to go and stand on my desk and give myself a self-assigned PhD and give you guys a college lecture on those things. I'm not an expert in those. I sound like a complete moron. What I can conclude from all of it, though, is when you look at how both of these type of systems operate and then the impact social media and television and a lot of the things we have going on right now that we consume every single day, it is causing, without a doubt, I'm zero hyperbole, the equivalent to entrepreneurship and just emotional life willingness, brain damage. Let me explain, because you have to stop this. It's bad. So today's video is going to be quite a Morty mind bender, and I know in the past few videos I've kind of gone off the tracks in the weird topics. And this one's going to go completely off the tracks and into the ocean. It's going to be really weird for about 5 to 10 minutes, but it will all wrap up in some form of common sense. But you got to give me those 5 minutes. And I know I say this every single video, but if you don't have 5 minutes to watch this, that's fine. But you're literally going to be causing yourself a form of brain damage. I mean, you are literally making yourself really stupid and incompatible with any form of success or even really functioning as a human being. And I don't mean that in any form of hyperbole. Let me explain. So, the best way we can explain this is with a horribly, horribly drawn drawing. This is great. So, to put the benefit of what you're about to see right here, here is you. And here is where you are going to end up as a person. You are either going to end up pissed off and unsuccessful, or successful to whatever degree we determine success as, and focused and able to have control of your life. There's no in-between right here. If you operate in the way I'm about to explain to you, it's just your brain literally cannot get you to right here where you have control and freedom and whatever goals you're trying to get to if you keep operating like I'm about to tell you, because it's programmed. You can't control it. So what you need to understand about yourself is this is what makes up you. Okay, so this big bubble right here is you. And this right here is your consciousness. This is everything that you take in. This is you taking me in right now. This is everything that you're focused on. These are the decisions you're making. It's the things you're deciding on in your head right now. It's you. What you're experiencing right now. This is you. And then this is your subconscious. And what you need to understand is that you are doing an almost unimaginable amount of processing right now. Just sitting right here and understanding what I'm saying, taking in the words, taking in the sound, controlling your heart, everything that's going on in the room around you right now. It's an insurmountable amount of data that's going into your body right now. And so that's why if you've ever been anywhere new in your life, if you've ever traveled and you feel overwhelmed in that sense of awe, that's kind of what's going on. And just to explain that, because that was really badly explained, the room you're sitting in right now, you've been in probably hundreds of times. You're at your computer, wherever you are right now. You don't feel overwhelmed. You don't feel a sense of awe because the code, the recognition of that room, where things are, how that room works, is already entered in your brain. All the dynamics of that room have been put into your subconscious. There is a program written for the room you're in right now. Therefore, it's very easy for you to sit in this room without focusing on a lot of things. It's not anything new to take in. Then, if you go and travel, let's say you're in America and you travel to a Chinese country, which is very different culturally, everything's nuts, the words on the signs completely different than everything you've ever imagined. It's very overwhelming. Everything around you is coming in and you're focused completely on your environment instead of like right now where you're able to easily focus on me because you're in an environment you've been in zillions of times. If you were trying to listen to me right now while walking through a Chinese, let's imagine you are in Shanghai for the first time, walking around with tons of people you've never been around before, with signs you've never been around, noises and everything like that. There's zero chance in hell you'd be able to comprehend what I'm saying because your brain is busy writing programs to take in exactly how your new environment works. That's why when you were a kid, everything was absolutely crazy, cool, amazing, because you were constantly writing codes and programs to basically take in how the world works. Now that you have all those programs set in, your brain isn't writing those codes. You're not feeling overwhelmed. The program is set. So it's very easy for you to sit in this room, even though there's an insurmountable amount of things happening around you. Billions and zillions of things are happening around you right now. And you're able to just sit there very, very coherently and focus on what I'm saying. This is kind of what we're going to be getting into. And what you're experiencing right now, your consciousness, what you're focused on, you're actually able to focus on a very, very small amount of something. You have to have your subconscious to function. If you remove this thing right here, and what you need to understand right here is what I'm going to be giving you right here is the truth. It's not going to be down to the exact 1% data science level of accuracy. There might be some numbers that are off by 10x or whatever, but the general concept I'm explaining right here is the truth. So your subconscious, if you look at this diagram I've done right here, I've read many places it's 1,000,000 times more powerful than your actual conscious in processing data. And so let's imagine right here you're just processing 40 bytes of data. Your subconscious right here and all the processes that are running, all the things that allow you to essentially really be you. This is far more of who you are than what your consciousness is. This would be processing 40 million bits of data. And the reason why is because if you were going to try and comprehend every single thing that your body is doing right now, everything that your body is operating on, everything that basically makes you you, the programming that controls every decision, how you move your eyes, how you move your hands, you'd implode. It wouldn't work, and you'd basically be stuck in almost a plant-like state because you can't comprehend all of it. And so how your brain is going to work is your consciousness right here basically takes stuff in and decides what's going to get programmed in this subconscious. Okay? And the best way to explain how this works is by explaining how AI works. So, essentially how AI is going to work, and this is a very paraphrased description. And by all means, I'm not in my house coding AI late at night. I'm not explaining to you how a self-driving car is going to work. I'm going to explain the very simple concept of how deep learning works, which is basically what everybody's designing all their AI around right now, or at least what they're trying to. And so how it works is you basically have this black box, okay? And this black box has tons of variables in here that get adjusted at random. And so you got all these variables right here that are inside the black box. And then you have an input, okay? And then you have an output. And so what happens right here is inputs go in to this box right here, and the variables are pretty much at random. It's completely going through. It just hits the randoms, and it tries to give an output, and it's going to give an answer. And then basically you have a computer on this side that basically looks at the answer and gives it a yes, no. Is this what we're looking for, or is this not what we're looking for? And it basically grades it and sends it back. Now, if you were to do this one at a time for something like playing chess or driving a car, or even recognizing a drawing and separating it from being a dog or a horse, this would take an insane amount of time. But if you have this going and firing millions of times every single hour, you can actually train something to spot something like separating a dog from a horse pretty accurately, because it goes and sends out all these variables right here, sends it out, and this thing goes, okay, what's the grade? Okay, so this is the best stuff that came out of here. This is everything that had an 80% success ratio. So we're going to send that back, and then we're going to send it through 1,000,000 times. All right, so this is everything that had a 92% success ratio. And it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Again, this is a paraphrase. This is not an exact description of how AI works or the algorithms and everything behind it, because if I try to explain it, it wouldn't even make sense, because a lot of it doesn't even make sense to me. But this is the general concept you need to understand. And what you need to understand for what I'm saying right here is that what goes into here and what comes out in the output really relies on the input. So if we were trying to make an AI that would recognize dogs versus horses, if we were putting in pictures of hot dogs and then squirrels and then pictures of Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump, and then trying to make an AI that would be really good at that thing, it wouldn't work, because we're not giving it the data it needs. And it doesn't matter what this input is. The AI is not some smart thing that goes when it's born or bred that says this is a horse or this is a dog. It's just a thing that records what goes into it. And it's going to replay that thing, and it's going to grade itself, and it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. So the input is completely under the control of the user. And so there's nothing in here that says, oh, okay, cool, we're going to behave a certain way. There's no judge, there's no process. And how your subconscious and your mind works is a lot like your consciousness. Your consciousness is basically the thing that controls the inputs going into your brain. That's everything that comes into that. And then what happens is, let's imagine it's a little bit different, because we're not throwing around a bunch of variables. What happens in our brain, again, paraphrase, is we have inputs. And it goes into the black box of our brain. And then what we do is it's basically scored. It's scored. And what happens as it goes through our brain is the brain looks at the process, all the repeatable things that happen between it, all the steps, all the actions that went into doing such thing, and it creates basically a demo program. All right, so this is the program that we could run to achieve what's the result. So what the results are going to be is you're going to have a minor dopamine release, which is, yes, do more of this. You're going to have a negative dopamine release, which is, I don't really like this, but whatever. It's not something that's going to kill me. And you're going to have a hell yes massive satisfaction, and you're going to have a hell no. Now, there's different levels of these things, and some of these inputs are under your control and some of them are not. So right here, a massive dopamine release in relation to a deep ego satisfaction, or drinking, or a drug release. This is outside your control. Same thing with pain is if you put your hand on a stove, you're not going to feel good about it. It's going to cause massive pain. And this is just going to be an automatic yes and an automatic no. And then there's something that's a little bit more subtle, which is your own beliefs. So for example, when I brush my teeth, there's nothing that I feel in my body that is going to trigger dopamine or massive pain. It's completely up to my own perception. In my point of view, I'm going to release in my head, yes, this is a good thing. And then on another hand, because of my beliefs, if I go and see The Last Jedi, if you ever saw that movie, absolutely terrible. But the reason why it's terrible is because of my beliefs and my views on it. So I'm going to say this is bad. So I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to stop going and seeing this movie, and I'm going to keep brushing my teeth. And this is a little, that was kind of a joke. A better example of this would be if I was throwing a football. All right, this is a way better example. I was just going off on a small tangent. Look, if I was throwing a football and I got the result that I wanted, I'm going to label it as a yes. My consciousness is going to go through my consciousness. I'm going to say this is how stuff should be. And if I throw a football and I get a bad result, so I throw it off the football field and it doesn't go to receiver, I'm going to say it's a no. And so what's going to happen is our consciousness is going to give us yes and no's. And what's going to happen based on all these things, dopamine, pain, yeses and no's, our subconscious creates programs. And so if you ever watch a baby when it's born, from the age of 2 to 6, it's almost in completely program making mode. There isn't really much consciousness. It's all subconscious. And yes, you can talk to a kid and whatnot, but what's going on here is it's writing all the programs. They're going to decide how it behaves as a human. And you need to understand that 95% of your behavior, 95% of the processing going on in your head is subconscious. It's not you actively doing it. Because if you had to actively do everything that's happening to you right now, interpreting the room you're in, making your heartbeat, breathing, reading, listening to the sounds that are coming in, interpreting all the light signals that are going into your eyes right now, interpreting all the air that's touching your arm, and the things that you believe and feel and how you feel about something, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. You'd implode. So that's why you need the consciousness to go and basically interpret the programs that are being written. So what happens is if you've ever read a book, I believe it's called The Power of Habit. This might not be the right book. If people that have their memories basically destroyed, they can't remember anything past 5 seconds, they're still able to do things like walk around the block. They're still able to go and remember how to brush their teeth or where certain things are in the kitchen. For example, if they liked jelly a whole lot and they ate jelly every single day, they can easily go to the counter and remember where the jelly is. But they're not actually remembering anything. What's happening is these little programs right here are running. That's the most important concept. And so these programs are running and pushing you in the direction you're going to go, no matter what. You don't need to be conscious to run these programs. And these programs make up 95% of who you are. Your consciousness is your experience, but it's not who you are. It's not the decisions you're going to make. It's not how you feel about certain things. It's not what you're going to decide to focus on or how you're going to react to anything. And so the most important thing you must understand is that your consciousness goes through and basically labels things yes, no, or dopamine release are extremely painful, and that's used to program the subconscious, what actually makes who you are. And knowing this, if you're going to get success in life, if you're going to be good at anything, if you're going to succeed, your subconscious has to be the thing that's programmed to be successful. For example, Tom Brady every single day has thrown millions of passes and labeled them yes or no. And because his brain, you could remove his entire memory, the guy would still know to throw a football. Because his programming is so set to this yes, no, what's going to happen is he becomes extremely, extremely good at having a program in his head that allows him to throw a football. Now, of course, there's his physical attributes and whatnot, but the same exact thing goes with athletes. Whenever they have success, so they win. What got Kobe Bryant hooked on basketball? Winning. Guy's the most competitive person ever. And he gets massive dopamine releases, and so it led him to actually go and do the programming that also allows him to do the yes-nos. That's what pushes him forward through there. And he also has massive pain from losing. So you can see how these releases right here, the chemicals that are kind of outside of his control, influence where he's going to go in his life, what type of things he's going to focus on. And then the yes-nos guide him to becoming very good at something. So what you must understand about this is that this programming right here, our subconsciousness, is not a conscious being. It is just like the black box in AI. It's going to create programs based on what the input is. That's it. And it's going to run those programs based on what the input is. And it's going to just run those programs. And so what if you have shitty input, if you have nasty input that goes in and you're labeling it yes, or even worse, you're getting dopamine releases from shitty input, your programs are fucked. Stage 5, fucked. And the worst part about this is they're going to run day and night and control every aspect of you, 95% of who you are. They're going to control that. And that really sucks, because if all your programs are negative programs that don't correlate to your goals. So let's say your goal is this. You want to be a multimillionaire. You want to live in this house. You want to have a company this size, and you want to have these skills, and you want to be this disciplined. Have you ever tried to do something, and I've tried this so many times. For the longest time, I tried to out-willpower things. And have you ever tried to out-willpower something like a diet or work habit or anything that's challenging to you, and it just didn't work? That's because what's running right here is negative programs. And what's going to happen is, just like throwing a football, just like going and learning any type of habit, what's going to happen is, here's you in your normal experience, and you're going to consciously want to go this way. But that doesn't matter, because that's not you. That your consciousness is what you're experiencing. And you have a little bit of chemicals in your head that allow you to overpower your subconscious. Your consciousness, your experience that you're doing right now, can somewhat overpower your subconscious to control these yes-nos. This is how you change. This is how you learn. This is how you rewire the person you are. Because the brain wouldn't work if it couldn't change its own programming, if it couldn't recognize when programming is faulty. So if the subconscious is telling you that you must eat something that you now realize is hurting you. For example, if any of you guys have ever had to change your diet in the past and it made you really sick. So for example, if you used to love French fries and now you eat French fries, but now every time you eat them you get really, really sick, what's going to happen is your consciousness is going to say, oh no, this is now a no. And eventually that programming is going to start programming that no, you don't want these things. You don't want this. This is why if you envision your favorite food and you picture shit all over it, it's very easy for you not to eat it. Okay? Think about that. Picture your favorite food that you have trouble not eating, then picture shit all over it. You're going to start labeling it as a no. Okay? But when you're doing something that doesn't have a clear yes, no, and you're trying to willpower it, what happens is the chemical that controls your willpower just eventually goes rock bottom. You're not going to be out willpower your subconscious. It's 10 million times more powerful than your consciousness. It's just not going to happen. And so what then happens is, through what I'm about to talk about right here, all we are doing is building negative programs. Especially like the way social media is engineered, the way YouTube and the things we're addicted to is engineered. All we're doing is sitting around constructing these little things that make it impossible for us to overcome them, because our willpower chemicals are just not enough. And so where it's going to take you is where you're focused on and where your thoughts are. And your thoughts overall control how these programs are created. Now, there's other things like the dopamine and pain that control it even to a greater extent. For example, no matter what you think, you're not going to put your hand on the stove and enjoy it. It's always going to cause a very painful experience. And no matter what you think, when you inject heroin into your body, it's going to be a very enjoyable experience. And your body's going to start building programs around those massive dopamine and massive pain releases. Those are just going to be constants. But your thoughts, which are essentially the yes, no's, and what you decide to focus on, and more importantly, where those thoughts take you towards those dopamine and pain releases, are going to build the programs on how you interact and decide the direction you go in. And so when your goal and where you don't want to be, which is the shit zone right here, this is clearly where you don't want to go, that you keep ending up at in your life. I've had this so many times with drinking, alcohol, negative thoughts, focusing on the wrong things in my business, getting lost in dumb shit, which is eventually the realm of dumb shit. This is what we're going to label it as, the realm of dumb shit. It's this stuff right here. And if you've noticed in your life where you keep getting dragged in this direction, it's because negativity.x, which is created. There's two types of programs you're going to create. There's going to be negativity.x, and this is just summarizing all the bad habits, and there's going to be success.x. Okay? These are going to be the programs that you're building. And when 95% of you is run negativity.x, it's going to be exhausting to live in any type of way that takes you to your goal. It's going to be literally exhausting to do it. It's just not going to work. And so let me talk about why this is so bad now. So let me summarize everything I've talked about. And you're going to understand. I'm going to bring this back to reality. What we've just covered is basically the inputs that we give our body are going to write programs. And the places where we can control what programs are written are by this yes, no. This is our consciousness. This is our form of control. We don't have control over the dopamine releases. We don't have control over the pain. Okay? And so when we give these inputs, we're going to write programs, and we're going to write really strong programs based around the dopamine, and we're going to write really strong programs based around the pain, and we're going to build programs based around the yes and no. And the more these programs run, the more ingrained the code gets, the better we get at running it. So for example, Tom Brady throwing the football, the more he throws that football, that better that program's going to get. It's just like AI, where it says at the first point, okay, what's going to happen? We're going to rate it by 80%. So this got the desired outcome right here 80% of the time. So we're going to keep running it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until it gets to 82%, 85%, 99%. And this is the point where you can start recognizing dogs versus horses. That's exactly how AI works in a summarized, paraphrased way. This is probably nothing like AI works. Just kidding. That's pretty much how it works. So now let's focus on the results. Now that you understand that this is what controls the programs we're running. All right, so if we're running negativity.x, I will come back to the negativity thing and the success thing, but you need to understand that our programs aren't good or bad. They're just going to take us, and they're going to control our body and take us in a direction where we're going to go on. And so let's imagine we're focused on a bunch of negative things. What's going to happen, especially when we combine the ego and the dopamine release we get when rewarding the ego if we're not aware of it, which is, for example, if you see people fighting in political comment threads, or you see all the negative, why do people go and watch videos complaining about stuff? Look at YouTube. Look at my titles. I know for a fact that negative headlines get way better clicks than other headlines. Why do people go watch videos hating on certain YouTubers, or hating on certain politicians, or spend time fighting in comment threads? It's because their ego gets rewarded. And because they're attached to their ego, massive dopamine spikes. And I'll get back to that here in a second. But if you are focused on mostly negative things, and the bigger point is right here, what we focus on is our inputs. The things that we put into our body are the inputs. And so what you put into your body and what you look at, you don't have a decision on it. You don't have a decision on it. It's going to be your overall view on the thing and the dopamine and pain releases. So it's really bad when you go and start looking at stuff that triggers a dopamine release that is bad for you. Drugs, social media, I'll explain it here in a second. Really toxic people in your life. We'll talk about that here in a second. But what you put on is going to decide where you focus on. It's going to decide what you're good at. So it's going to decide what you're focused on in life. And what you focus on is what you're going to be good at. And then overall, it's going to control your level of clarity, your level of positive feelings in your life. And I'm not talking about like happy, feel good, rub your tummy, and sing a Teletubby song, happiness. What I'm talking about right here is when you're happy and not stressed, what happens is you're able to think very clearly, and your body's able to do all the processes that it needs to be doing. If you're constantly stressed, what is happening is your body is in fight and flight mode. And when you're in fight and flight mode, what is naturally going to happen is your body is going to not look into things. Your body is not going to focus on things that move you forward. It's not going to focus on seeing the future. It's not going to focus on finding solutions in your business, finding solutions in your life. It's not going to focus on the thoughts that you must have and the processes your body must run to move forward in life. It's going to focus all on the fence. It's going to focus all on that. And naturally, I'm not going to go down the whole entire self-help route where people say your thoughts can heal you, your thoughts can change everything about your life and tap into the quantum realm and allow you to pull things from your subconscious into reality. I'm not going to go down that route. That's a whole personal belief thing. What it does do, if you're stressed, your blood pressure is much higher. Your body is wearing itself down. Your health is going to be worse. You are going to have lots of inflammation. Your brain is not going to think as clearly. Those are some very just basic bad things that come down with it. Your body is not going to operate like it should because its whole focus is you're constantly in fight and flight mode. And it's not going to focus on the routines and the programming that allows your body to be healthy. It's just not going to do those things. So if we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but we can both agree that stress has massive problems in your life. It causes massive problems with your focus, your health, your ability to work through things, and it shortens your lifespan. And these are undebatable facts. If you go and look at any studies, humans that have lower stress levels, that consider themselves happy, consider themselves fulfilled, live much longer and enjoy much more success than the opposite. Though these are all just undebatable facts, I'm not going to go into like deep self-help guru logic. So, what happens is when your input and what you're thinking about and what you're approving of and putting into your mind is And so let's take all these things right here. They can go both ways. Your focus, your progress towards your goals, your overall well-being as a person, ability to think, be an effective person, to have and become good at things is going to be controlled by your input. And it can go either way. And so when your inputs, the things you're thinking about, the things you're focusing on is negative shit, what is going to happen is it's going to drag you towards a direction of negative shit. You're not going to get really good at anything because you're focused on negative stuff. You're not going to be super healthy or very clear-minded because you're going to be stressed all the time because you're focused on negative stuff. You're not going to become really good at anything because your brain isn't disciplined to focus on anything and repeat the programs enough to make you good at anything. You're going to spend a lot of time going out there and repeating programs that give you zero benefit. And so this is where it gets really nasty because a lot of times we're going to go view things on YouTube. I used to do this all the time with Star Wars and politics. And I'd watch negative videos on certain types of movies. I'd watch negative videos on certain types of influencers. Me and my girlfriend would watch negative TV. And it gets really deadly when we start getting into dopamine and pain. But I go on Twitter and read negative political threads. And I'd go and then start thinking and talking about or thinking about things that have wronged me or things that I didn't like about the world. And so what happened is I'd be up here basically giving yeses to all these negative things right here. And so what did this do? Really, really, really hamstrung me. And you can't control this because these inputs right here, the more you reinforce these inputs, the more it's going to become ingrained in who you are. And so when these inputs are coming in, all these negative inputs that you're looking at, for example, if you watch a really negative video, the releases that causes are going to cause you to become more and more negative. And you're going to get in every single time you want to feel, and naturally your body's just going to start running negativity.x. And this is why it will keep running. And this is the whole point of everything. This is why YouTube, social media, and a lot of things that are put on TV are so damn dangerous. And for the longest time, I was like, I'll watch this stuff. Gives me a emotional release. And that's the fucking problem. Because when most people are completely ruled by their ego. And what things are activated to the zillionth degree? What things activate the ego to the zillionth degree? Social media. And so what happens when we're on social media? So let's imagine, let's look at me, okay? So I really disliked Star Wars The Last Jedi. So what I would do is I'd go watch tons of videos being angry about it. And the reason why people use social media is one and only one thing: to reinforce their ego. That is it. You don't give a shit about the people you're talking to on social media. You don't give a shit about what they're doing. You don't give a shit about anything except reinforcing your ego. That's it. Why do you post on social media? So you can reinforce your ego that you matter. Why do you go and argue with people? So you can reinforce that your way of viewing the world matters and you are right and everybody else is wrong. Why do you go look at other people's stuff? So that you can compare yourself and your ego to their stuff. It's all ego. And ego on its own part is a whole entire other video. But what happens when you watch a Star Wars video? What happens when I watch a Star Wars video that's super negative? What happens? And it reinforces my ego. Dopamine release. This is the stuff right here that writes programs without your control. And so what happens is I keep going out there and practicing negative things that reinforce negative thoughts and put me in a fight and flight mode, aka stress. So what happens when you're going and arguing with someone in a political thread? I go and read Donald Trump's Twitter. Look at all the people fighting right there, reinforcing their ego. What happens right there? Dopamine release. And what is then also happening is it's not only putting us in flight and fight mode, but the way social media is designed is to be a repetitive pattern, just like throwing a football. So what is happening is your brain keeps recognizing this pattern as a dopamine release. And it keeps rebuilding this program, and it builds a really strong-ass program. I would reason that we could knock out your entire consciousness right now, and you still go to social media and check the same things every single day. And you keep building this pattern right here, and building this pattern that puts you in this stressed-out release. And so your brain connects these stressed out habits and these negative thoughts with dopamine release. And so you need to understand your brain doesn't care, your subconsciousness doesn't care whether you have a Lamborghini and a nice house and a happy family. It doesn't care. All it's doing is writing programs. And so as you write these programs, your programs are going to get involved around negative thoughts. And so because you're sitting in your shower thinking about the political issues going on and trying to solve immigration or license ID, or you're sitting around stressing over the next Star Wars movie. What happens is your brain relates stress and negative crap that has nothing to do with your actual success and successful habits with your programs. And so what's going to happen is you just keep running these programs. And so what is also going to happen is whenever you're in pain, when you're bored, what's going to happen is your brain is going to start going to go and run those programs that release dopamine. That's what's going to happen. That's how that's going to work. And so if you have a problem with eating or binge eating or drinking or any of the negative stuff you do, what happens is how most people work, and this is how I've worked for the longest time, is when you start to feel pain from boredom, or you start to feel pain from discomfort, or you start to feel any type of pain, your body is going to say, what programs do we have to run to get back up here? What programs do we have to run to get back right here? And the only control you have over this, and so this is where the whole entire disaster comes, because as soon as you get right here where you're feeling pain, your willpower is only going to be able to stop you for so long. It's only going to be able to stop you from eating that cake or drinking that beer or doing that thing. There has to be something in the yes-no of consciousness that stops this. And if our yes-no is constantly, when our yes-no is constantly giving us inputs, your yes-nos allow you to control the inputs you put in, and we're constantly putting in inputs that give us dopamine releases for bad things, what's going to happen is whenever we start to feel pain or slow down or weak or any of the things that come with being a normal person, what's going to happen is we're getting in the pain, look at the programs, what gets us the dopamine release. And then we do that Friday thing where we go and get drunk. And then we wake up on Monday morning and we're like, oh, why did we do that? We're hungover now and we're not able to work towards our goals. Or we go and we start feeling bored. And so what we do, we start checking political things. We start looking at negative videos, because what happens is when we watch those negative things, especially on social media, it gives us an ego release, which then gives us dopamine. Makes us feel like we're valuable, makes us feel like our thoughts are superior, makes us feel like we have a moral superiority. So bam, dopamine is going off. And then the triggers that come with social media, the way Facebook, YouTube, and everything is designed to constantly keep giving you that hit with as least effort as possible, what's going to happen is to get out of pain, we're just going to keep going that, and your programs are just going to start sending you here. And the problem with these programs is sitting in your shower thinking about politics. The problem with these programs is sitting around watching Star Wars videos that are very negative. The problem with having negative thoughts and thinking about how you can defeat your enemies constantly and how you can be better than other people and all the things that come with ego have nothing to do with success. They're not going to take you there. And what's going to happen is when your body starts recognizing dopamine releases with actions that put you in fight or flight chemistry, everything goes to shit. Your brain goes to shit. Your health goes to shit. And most importantly, the programs that you're running and perfecting have nothing to do with your success. And this is why it's so damn bad. This is the entire point of this video. Because what you should probably watch yourself is watch all the negative stuff you're attracted to on social media. Watch all the people you follow that you're comparing yourself to. Look at all the times you are feeding your ego and trying to make yourself feel superior or comparing yourself to others, which is literally all social media is. If you didn't need these things, your social media would involve the people you actually talk to. You wouldn't even have social media. You just have a phone where you could talk to people. But you do. And so the other day I was thinking about all the negative crap that's on YouTube, all the negative crap that's on Twitter. Why are people so addicted to this stuff? It's pretty obvious why. And then I was thinking to myself, I've always had trouble in the past giving up drinking. I've had trouble in the past having really negative thoughts. I've had trouble in the past with relationships where I constantly want to blame another person or I'm constantly at war with the person. I've had other times where I'm constantly not making any progress in my life, but I'm really focusing on tons of ego-backed things to make myself feel better. Social media. Was I right or wrong in this argument? Was I right and wrong in this thing? And the result of that is not having crystal clear thought. It's not being able to see the truth. And it's not developing habits like throwing the football to your receiver over and over again, because all your programs are being written to take you away from throwing that football. If your entire business came down to throwing a football and you're filling it with all these things, you're writing programs that have nothing to do with throwing that football. And it's ruining your clarity of mind, it's ruining your focus, it's ruining everything you need to write the programs in your subconscious that allow you to throw that football well. And so what's going to happen is your habits are just going to be terrible and you're not going to be a successful person, because every program that's running is fighting you tooth and nail to stop you from practicing the habits of a successful person. And so what you must do is you must recognize this immediately. And your yes, no right here, this is good, this is bad, must be put in front of this input. So when you're thinking about going and watching TV, or you're thinking about eating this food right here, and so what you must realize is that when you're watching TV, when you're getting on social media, when you're checking Twitter accounts, you're scrolling through social media, and you are subconsciously giving your actions right there the yes. And you're building programs around those things. The more you do them, the more you're going to do them. And the only time you're ever going to get away from these things is when you have massive pain. So one of the ways I got a lot better at discipline, but not completely there, and I'm still not completely there, is feeling massive pain by not hitting my goals. That massive pain allowed me to get rid of a lot of bad habits. But the second you start slipping those bad habits back in, and here's where it becomes really nasty, because as soon as you relate these dopamine releases with that habit, as soon as you still love that habit, but you're trying to avoid it through willpower, for example, drinking or binge eating, or doing just negative, dumb shit in your life, getting into toxic relationships, as soon as you're trying to beat your bad habits with willpower alone, eventually after 60 days, 90 days, you're going to crash back in those habits. And then what's going to happen is those programs are just going to start getting written again. They're just going to come strong, and you're going to end up going down the same exact path. What you have to do is you cannot be at the point where there's any going back to these habits. You have to be at the point where you completely control your input. So for example, when I gave up drinking for 90 days at one time, and then I ended up going back to drinking and picking up almost all the bad habits again, it's because in the back of the head, I was constantly allowing myself to think positive thoughts. My yes, no's were about drinking. I'm thinking, oh man, so I can't wait till the next time we go to Vegas or this thing. Or in the back of my head, what I'm thinking is, oh, fuck these people that have these certain type of beliefs. Or when I'm watching these negative videos and taking these inputs, I'm constantly thinking to myself, okay, so I'm not going to watch politics for a week, or I'm not going to do this negative thing for a week. But I'm still assigning it in my head the yes. And so the programs are still being written. What you must do is you must get those thoughts completely out of your head, because those are the inputs that write your subconscious and then lead you towards the dopamine or pain releases. And I know this is kind of going off the tracks, but what you can do in the first place you must stop this is social media. This is the easiest place. There is no better place that triggers dopamine releases related to fight and flight chemicals than social media. There isn't a single one. And there's no easier place to get wrapped up with dopamine releases related to negativity than social media. And so when you're going around YouTube and clicking on the videos hating on people, when you're going and getting these political dates, you're going and constantly reinforcing these bad habits, is because you keep assigning a yes, your consciousness, your experience right here, to these things that give you dopamine releases that at the end of the day are negative. And so you end up writing this code that keeps taking you down here, and this takes you to the land of dumb shit, which is drinking, bad eating habits, bad sleep habits, low discipline, watching social media all day, being able to not be able to sit down and focus on your goals. Or if you can just control the input and just completely eliminate those and replace them with other thoughts. So whenever you are thinking about drinking, instead smash that thought with you thinking about your business hitting a certain income mark. Whenever I think about that, I'm going to smash it with a certain goal that I have. And so what you can do, if that makes sense, whenever I start feeling myself heading towards these things, these thoughts, I don't let them go and create more programs. You must smash them and replace them with another program or another habit, another view or another belief, because these are the things that are going to take you down those roads. And then most importantly, when you're on social media, when you're going through your day-to-day life, when you're choosing the people to interact in, you must absolutely avoid the inputs that write those negative programs. The things you input into your body and the things you allow yourself to think are going to write the programs. That is, end of day, all there is to it. And so if you want to be successful and you think you can become successful and become the disciplined person you need to be successful while still having all these negative programs that are 95% of you, if you think the 5% of you that wants to be successful is going to overcome that 95%, you are insane. And you are trying to become successful with literal brain damage. It's not going to happen. Your habits, you could turn off your consciousness and your body would do those bad habits over and over again. Until you stop triggering the thoughts and inputs that write the programs of those bad habits, you will always have them and you will not be able to become successful, because everything about you is counter to success. What you must do is recognize the inputs and thoughts that correlate to successful habits and successful focus. That's what you must do. And then you must force feed your brain the successful inputs and force feed yourself the thoughts, replace the bad thoughts with the good thoughts. And this isn't some quantum focus and you can heal any disease by thinking hard about it. It is literally deciding what programs are going to be written. Force feed your brain the positive inputs. Force feed your brain the positive thoughts that direct you in the direction you want to go to success. And that's how you're going to rewrite those programs. If you want to keep the same thoughts in the same subconscious, it will never work. Look at yourself as the AI and keep asking yourself, why does the AI keep putting out crappy programs? It's because you keep giving the AI crappy input. The AI doesn't care what goes in it. It will write a code no matter what. Your subconscious does not care what goes in it. It will write a code and push you to execute that code no matter what. And when the stuff going into that is negative and has nothing to do with your success, and it's triggering a dopamine release, which is all social media is, which is all gossiping is, you end up with a lot of really shitty programs created by the AI that is your subconscious. And the problem is it's way easier to get dopamine releases from negative stuff than it is from positive stuff. That's why it's so easy for 99% of people to go down this route right here. So what you must do is remove those inputs entirely. Replace your thoughts with only the positive thoughts that lead to your successful habits and thoughts, and then surround yourself with those successful inputs, which is removing all the things that are negative inputs. And pretty soon you start getting those dopamine releases. You need to start triggering your dopamine releases to success and hitting your goals and things that are not related to material or ego-based things. If you are getting your dopamine releases from your ego, you are writing bad programs. If you're getting your dopamine releases from things that really fulfill you, you're going to be writing good programs. Remember, there's no good or bad programs. There's just programs. And the programs are going to take you where you're going to go. And if you want to go somewhere that's success, you have to start writing programs that correlate to it. That's it.